Alright, we're filling up in here. Let me start over on that. Heat and AC test 9. Two technicians are discussing coolant flow through a heater core. Technician A says heated coolant enters the heater inlet hose close to the engine thermostat. Technician B says the coolant from the heater core returns to the water pump outlet.
What's this?
Heat and AC test 9. Alright, there's several different ways that heater core are piped to the engine, and basically one of the things I've always said, if either you've got an orifice in one of the heater core tubes, or if one of the heater core's tubes is smaller than the other one, you need to run the coolant that's going in needs to go to the smaller of the two, because if you've got it going to the larger one, and when it encounters the small one, it's going to create pressure in the heater core. You know, when you put your thumb over the end of the water hose, the hose gets tight, and that kind of thing. You don't want that to happen in the heater core. And I have known of these guys that were doing these. There was a sort of a recall or a technical service bulletin at the Ford place on the Tauruses. They were saying we put a little orifice in one of the heater hoses so that the coolant wouldn't go as fast through the heater core. And it was either for noise or better heating or something. I don't remember what it was, but they kept hooking those heater hoses up backwards. They'd have the orifice on the one coming out, and that would bust the heater core. And then somebody changed the heater core and put them back like that. It'd bust the heater core again. Somebody wanted to put another heater core in there. But anyway, so on that particular one, A is the right one. So heater inlet hose is the one that's going. And when we're talking about the heater core here, we're talking about the heater core is that little radiator that's inside the dash, and it's got these two tubes coming off of it, right? Now, if both of those tubes are the same size and neither one of them has an orifice pinched down in it, then it doesn't matter how they hook up. But if one of them's littler than the other one, the inlet is going to be the one of either the orifice in it or the one that's smaller. Okay, the water pump is what's pushing that coolant. You know how the thermostat is closed and none of the coolant from the engine block can make it to the radiator? Basically, the water pump is going to bypass that. Well, some of them have a little bypass hose that gives the water somewhere to go when the water pump's spinning, and just lets it recirculate until the thermostat opens, then it starts pushing it through the radiator. But long and short of it is, the first place that hot water goes is to the heater core, and it leaves the water pump going over the heater core, and then it comes back. And it may go back in there anywhere. Some of the Chevrolets put it back into the radiator. The Chevrolet pickups, you may have seen a heater hose go into the radiator, on the passenger side about halfway down. That's a heater hose, and some of the Chevys, they do that. And some of them will go back in to the water jacket back there in the back of the manifold or somewhere. But the one that's right there by the water pump is typically going to be the one. Now, they pipe these heater hoses crazy on some cars, so it's not always as simple as what I'm describing. One way or another, the one that's the water pump's what's going to push it through there, and then it's pushed through the heater core and back in. That's a cycle it makes. Two technicians are discussing the heater core. Technician A says a heater core is a heat exchanger, much like a radiator. He's right. Technician B says coolant from the engine brings heat to the heater core. And that's both of them. Both those guys are right. Got it? All right. So, let's see. Two technicians are discussing heater hoses. These technicians talk a lot about stuff like heater cores and heater hoses on the inside. Technician A says most hoses have an inside diameter of about 1 inch or larger. Have you ever seen a 1 inch or larger heater hose? I don't think so. That's kind of not right, I don't think. 1 inch or larger heater hoses? Come on. Technician B says heater core inlet hose is usually larger than the outlet. Number 3. Neither one of those guys is right. Heater hoses are attached to the heater core using what? Number 4. Both A and B. Some of them have clamps, some of them have quick connect couplings. I had that one on that Ford pickup the other day, and the quick connect coupling that I got from the parts house was made in China or whatever, and it wouldn't quite fit. It was the right one, but it was made so tight and so small that it wouldn't slide over the heater core right. We wound up having to get rid of both of those quick connects and just use clamps. Slide them over the little bump that the quick connect's supposed to go to, and put a clamp on the back side. It's kind of aggravating to do. That's the only way to make sure it wouldn't pop off. Because the worst part about quick connects is you'll think it's all the way on there and it won't be. and then the pressure starts to build up, and that hose pops off like a cork, and you've lost all your coolant. Because boy, is there ever a river of coolant going through there. Now, some of these vehicles have got heater control valves, like the one that y'all just replaced on this van out here, that shuts off the hot water whenever you don't need any heat back there. All right. Let's see. 2 technicians are discussing the heater output temperature. Technician A says the valve is used to reduce coolant flow. A valve is used to reduce coolant flow through the core unless heat is desired. That's on some vehicles, that's true, but not on all of them. The Ranger, even though it's got a blend door actuator, has still got a heater control valve. So it's got them both. It's got a heater control valve and it's got a blend door actuator, that little 98 Ranger we got there. And some of your Jeeps are like that too. All right, let's see. The valve is used to reduce out coolant flow when less heat's there. Technician B says most modern systems use a blend door actuator to control coolant flow. And number 5, it says number 5. If you look at the answer key, it says A is right, but most modern systems do use a blend door actuator. I don't know where they came up with that, but actually some of them have a heater control valve, some of them have a blend door, some of them have both. And so number 5, I would say both of those guys are right. The control for most heater control valves is by a what?
Vacuum motor?
Vacuum motor, either A or B, a Bowden cable, which is the little, like the cable like operates your lawnmower throttle.
No.
That's what you call a Bowden cable, right? Got a sheath on the outside and it's anchored and then the cable moves inside of it. 2 technicians are discussing heater temperature control. Technician A says the control valve will be wide open when full heat is desired. Technician B says the coolant control valve should go wide open if a vacuum line is disconnected. Which technician is correct? Now, which way does that thing default?
Vacuum?
The heater core. If you turn off the vacuum, is that heater, heater core, but heater control valve, is it going to close or is it going to open?
Stay open.
Think about what it is that it needs to do. Every time you, if you don't want that thing to seize up where it won't work at all, and the ones on the older cars used to be made out of brass and have a little, metal part in there, but you basically want that thing to always be moving back and forth. Now, the earlier ones that I knew about, whenever you would shut off the car, they would open, and then when you crank the car, they would close, as I remember. But basically, whenever you're wanting heat, you're going to get vacuum applied to it, and that's going to open it. But whenever the vacuum goes away, it will typically close. So if you take the vacuum line off, it's going to close. Yeah, on the ones that I'm familiar with. So if you basically look at what he says here, let's see what number 7 said. That's both of them right there. Wait a minute. Which one were we on?
Yes, that's 7.
7? Let's see. Should go wide open if the vacuum line is disconnected. Number 7. Number C. Yeah. Now that's actually something that I don't know on every vehicle. I mean, it's not the same on all of them. Now that one that you just pulled off had vacuum applied to it, but it was staying open. That wasn't because the vacuum was applied to it. That's because that's the way it defaults. It's spring-loaded to the open. But whenever you turn on your, all summer long, you're not going to use it. And so basically they're wanting it to be closing when it's got vacuum going to it. So that way it's constantly opening and closing all the time. It doesn't seize up. The diaphragm is probably busted on the one that you pulled off out there a while ago. So on 7, let's just make sure that if she's grading it, she won't get messed up. Let's put a C on there because I may have misled you on that with all my convoluted thoughts. An aftermarket heater system consists of
all the above.
Control switches, a blower, a core, all of the above. Some of them, they make a little, they would make a little heater core built into a little housing with a fan, and all you had to do was run water hoses to it, and you could have heat. And that was back whenever some of the, if the car had a busted heater core and you didn't want to have to go in there and replace it, or you couldn't get the parts, you could actually put an auxiliary heater in there that would, pipe coolant to it. Some vehicles can operate the heater core even when the engine is turned off. This is done by what? How you do that? An auxiliary water pump. Some of these vehicles now have got electric water pumps on them. You know that? They're not spinning it with a belt anymore. A hybrid vehicle may use which of the following to warm the vehicle occupants? What do you think? It would be PTC heater elements, an auxiliary water pump, a heat pump, or any of these. Any of these would be right.
And number 9 was electric boost heater. Auxiliary.
Yeah, number 9 is going to be A. Auxiliary water pump.
Electric water pump.
Yeah, typically electric boost heater burn too much power. Let's see. Coolant flow to the heater core may be controlled by heater, water control valve, vacuum mechanism, cable mechanism, and any of these. That would be the identify the heater core in this illustration. Identify the heater core in this illustration. Okay. Hey, that's how you. How about the blower motor? Now, who would think the blower motor was the heater core? That would be pretty silly, wouldn't it? All right. Okay, that is actually an archaic picture because it's got a round breather on it, and there's your little heater control valve on it. With most cars, heater outlet temperature is adjusted by controlling the flow of blank through the heater core. Not with most cars. These people here, these are old. This is a book got a really late new copyright, but it's got some pictures, some questions in it. They're old. That's weird. But basically, number 13 could be either of these. Basically, let's see. Some cars use metal tubing for coolant flow to the core to allow routing what? A, past hot places. B, through congested areas with tight bends. C, either of these. D, neither of these. That's going to be C. What's the problem with a hose making a tight bend? Unless it's formed into the hose, if you try to make a tight bend with a hose. Have you ever run into a situation where you got to replace a hose that's got an elbow in it, and all you can get is a straight one, and you can't put an elbow in that unless you put a 90-degree splice in it? You know, because if you try to bend it, it's going to kink. And some people just cram it on over to kink anyway and hope for the best, and they wind up making trouble for themselves. True or false? A large vehicle or SUV may have a second heater core in the rear of the vehicle. True. You guys know that because that van back there, don't you? And remember the one I told you about? The rear window defroster in that 67 Chrysler New Yorker I drove. There was a heater core under the package tray in the back and had heater hose running through the car to that thing. And I was going to the junior college out there in 1975 or whatever it was. And I was going around that loop, going around the college, and then when heater hose busted and filled that whole car up with steam. I couldn't see nothing, man. I had to roll the windows down and stick my head out. A vehicle's heater is stuck in defrost only mode. This could indicate a failure of what? Somebody knows the answer to that because you guys have worked on it. Huh? 16? That's B, the heater system controls. Okay. We're done with 9. Now we're going to jump right on into 10. Got that? Let's jump into 10. Everybody ready to jump into 10? We're making good time so far. I know you guys are chomping at the bit. The good thing about having our this session at 11 is because everybody by this time is ready to come into the classroom for a while and cool down. You notice that? People just come in here automatically. You know? And there's Sharon. She came in here automatically too. Come on over. Come on down. We got signed papers. All right, there you go.
Thank you.
Did you put that other little desk in there?
I got it all over right here.
Okay, that worked. That's fine. All right. That's your mat. That is your stuff. Your radiator won't be here tomorrow morning, but you're going to do everything but, okay? Flush the cooling system, change the thermostat, you're going to do all that stuff. Okay. The last thing you're going to do is leave the radiator alone until tomorrow, and tomorrow you'll change the radiator. And don't do the ZAC thing and lay out, okay? All right. Which of the following methods, this is for test 10, which of the following methods is used to connect the AC control head to the airflow control doors?
All of these.
Yeah, all of these. Air can enter the duct system through which of the following? Fresh air plenum, recirculate, return, defrost duct, or both A and B?
D.
That's going to be a D. Number 3, 2 technicians are discussing AC door operation. Technician A says when the control head is set to heat, the mode door should direct air discharge from the instrument panel ducts. Technician B says the air discharge should be at the floor level. Who's right about that? If you put it on heat, the mode door is the one that shows all the pictures of the guy sitting in the car with the air blowing. So yeah, you're going to put it where you put it in the heat position, it ought to be blowing in the floor. Yeah. You know, it's not going to blow in your face unless you turn the heat temperature all the way up, put it on vent, you ain't going to get it in your face. You put it on heat, it's going to go in the floor. That's the mode now, the mode door, not the temperature door. See what I'm saying? Don't get confused about which one we're talking about. The number, let's see. That's number 3. That's going to be B. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Most vacuum control valves have how many operating positions?
2.
Mm-hmm. Some of them have 3. What I was explaining to somebody yesterday is most of the vehicles nowadays have got electric blend doors, so you'll be able to stop that blend door anywhere you want to in its travel. It's really tough to do that with a vacuum door. You can stop it in 3 different positions with a vacuum door. If you ever see a vacuum There was one laying around in here somewhere. Anybody see that one? The one Jeremy's always playing with? Where is it? Let me see that. Give me that. Somebody pass that up here to me.
A question about that. If you press it real hard, some stuff comes out of that.
Yeah. Well, what you got here, see this particular one has got 2 vacuum ports on it. If you put vacuum on one of them, it moves part way in. If you put it on this other one, it moves all the way in. See, it's got 2 positions. See what I'm saying? It's a 2-position vacuum door, and that's one of those. This is supposed to operate a blend door. Now, on some of them, they'll have it where it'll be like they on the General Motors cars. You remember they used to say bi-level? You know, they'd have it where you would have it here and in the floor or something like that. And not all cars are created equal that way. Some of them will give you a setting where it's in your face and in the floor, or they'll give you a setting where it's defrosted in the floor. But some of them, you know, they'll have mix, but we don't all have that available on all cars. You know what I mean? I don't even have that, but that's right.
That thing operates a blend door?
Yeah, typically one that's like this is up in 2 positions will operate the blend door. It'll stop it either halfway, or it'll be either all the way open, halfway, or all the way closed. You know, depending on where your knob.
So that thing is the reason that air, you can't get heat because it won't switch from.
Yeah, but most of the time that'll be a blend door actuator. Nowadays, most of them have blend door actuators. And what'll happen on those, and that's what's going on Abby's car, I believe the blend door actuator is stuck all the way in the heat position. And so she cranks it up, she's got good air for a little bit, then the next thing you know it's blowing hot. Because the heater core has got, you know, reheating the air that's been air conditioned. Alright, so here we go. Let's see. The blower speed has the least, the blank blower speed has the least electrical resistance, which, if you want the blower speed to run slow, are you going to have resistance in there to slow it down? You're going to slow some of the current down, you're going to create some heat. That's right, you are. So if you got the least electrical resistance, it's going high. Remember a little short story I told you about? I was driving to Savannah one time over there, and I stopped beside it. I was wearing my uniform and all that because I was in a hurry. And so I'm headed off over there, and there was an Explorer sitting beside the road. This lady was out there, and there was a bunch of yahoos standing out there in front of the vehicle with the hood up, you know, a bunch of mechanics trying to fix something. And so I don't know what's going on over there, you know, so it was in the daytime, so I pulled over, and I said, what's going on here? She said, there was a whole bunch of smoke that came out of my register, and I got scared, and I pulled over, and they're out there trying to find out what's wrong with it. Okay, I said, well, let me smell of it. So I opened the smell, and I smelled burning leaves. And I said, you were running your blower on low from what I see here. She goes, yep. And I said, you got leaves that are got down into your plenum, and they're laying all over the the blower resistor, and the blower resistor started, you know, it was really hot, and it started those leaves to smolder. And so I said, if you can turn off your air conditioner and roll your windows down, either that or run it on high, because the blower resistor don't get hot that way, you can drive it to somewhere, and they can pull that blower resistor out and get those leaves out of there, and you should be okay. Oh, okay, you know, but there's nothing wrong under the hood, you know, because the blower resistor on out. Anyway, that was one of them little things that you just got to think, you know what I mean? If you think smoke comes out of there, what's going on under the hood, it makes smoke come out of the air conditioner register, you know, nothing I know of. And when you smell like leaves, you know, it's obvious. Okay, 2 technicians are discussing the AC blower operation. Technician A says modern systems use a squirrel cage type blower, and they do. Technician B says a plain fan type unit is used with systems having cable type controls. Oh, please, that's A only. An ATC system has the ability to automatically do what? That's D, everything. It moves the blend door, it changes the function door setting, adjusts the blower speed. And on these, some of these really late model cars out there, they've got an AQS. And if your car's got an AQS on it, you ever come up behind some radio carbureted truck that's had all the emissions discombobulated on, like the one Daniel used to drive, and your eyes are burning because you're getting hydrocarbons and, you know, exhaust in there? Well, if you come up behind that on one of these cars that's got an AQS on it, AQS stands for air quality sensor, it says, I smell gas and stuff starting to show up out here, so I'm going to close the norm door and let it recirc. And that way you're not getting all that. You know what I mean? I mean, because whenever if you ever seen a rendering truck that's got this hauling dead cows, that thing won't trigger this. But if you ever see a fertilizer spreader truck slinging fertilizer and it's blowing across the road, you best be either turning your air to max or something. If you ain't got a cabin air filter, it's going to come in the car with you. And boy, that's some stinking stuff. You do that? You pick up something stinking outside. Man, I wish I'd have closed it. You know, wish I'd done something. You got to roll the windows down. Dead animal.
Defoliant.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's bad news. No. But anyway, so here we go. The two technicians are discussing ATC sensors. Technician A says an NTC thermistor has more resistance as it warms up. No, that's less. Technician B says that's negative temperature coefficient, by the way. Technician B says an increase in temperature will cause a negative temperature coefficient thermistor to have low resistance, and that's right. Number 8 is B only. Modern systems use an engine temperature sensor that does what? A, allows heater operation as soon as the engine is started. B, blocks AC operation when the engine is cold. C, turns on the AC compressor after the engine has started. Or D, prevents heater operation until the coolant is hot. Now, I haven't seen a lot of those. I mean, I know town cars and Lincoln and Crown Victorias used to have a CeeLo switch out there in the heater hoses. And if the coolant wasn't 130 degrees, then there would be no blower operation. And that thing could go bad. Hello? Hey. Hey, Johnny, what's up? All right, let me see here what we got. Let's go back into this.
9.
Number 9. Many modern systems use an engine temperature sensor that does what? Blocks the... Number 9, basically, the answer they're wanting there is D. What are you doing, Matt?
Adjusting my chair.
Oh. Number 10. An ATC system uses what to determine the temperature of the incoming air?
Ambient.
Well, not really. It's going to be, well, I say that. The one that I always think of, and really Daniel is right, but the one I always think of as an ambient sensor is the outside temperature sensor. But basically there's a little aspirator. If you ever notice in a dash, you'll see a little bitty grill, a little bitty air grill looking thing about as big around as a quarter, about that size. And that is there, it's piped into that plenum so that it has low pressure, and it draws air out of the car through that little grill across this sensor, which is going to be, that B is the right answer, I mean, because that's what these people are calling it. And that actually tells the in-car, I mean the ATC, automatic temperature control, what the internal air temperature is. And so just keep that in mind. And I was telling Daniel, some of these Volkswagens have actually got a sensor measuring the air coming out of the register to see how cold it is, you know, and if it malfunctions, it won't work right. 11, blower motor speed can be controlled by what? That's number 11. Pulse width modulation of the motor, varying electrical resistance of the circuit to the motor, varying electrical resistance to the switch, all of the above. Basically, a lot of, you know, these will have a, you know, the ones with automatic temperature control is going to have a little, just about any speeds you want. They don't just have, you know, low, medium, and high. They got a whole bunch of speeds. And usually they'll have a power transistor, you know, field effect transistor thing, I should call it, that's got the base. The more you feed into the base, the more current it lets flow through its circuit so that it can control the blower that way. Some GM cars have got those transistors operating the dash lights too, you know, and they burn out sometimes. Vacuum check valve is used to what? A, trap manifold vacuum in the intake manifold. Haha, that's funny. B, prevent vacuum from becoming too high in the vacuum reservoir. That's not so. Maintain vacuum. It's not going to increase the vacuum in the reservoir. It's going to maintain it under high speed and load conditions. When you're deep into the throttle, your engine vacuum is low. If the engine vacuum bleeds off, you can't get any vacuum back until you go there. Technician A says the air delivery system can direct air from the outside to enter the vehicle. Technician B says the air delivery system can recirculate the air within the passenger compartment. And who's right about that? Both of those guys are right. I was telling Daniel also the other day about some of these German cars that I heard about at the MAX convention. They have a solar panel in there on the dash, and it runs a fan inside it's in and amongst the air conditioning system in the dash, and it circulates air through the car all the time when it's hot outside. And so when you get in the car, it's not even hot in there. And it's totally run by sunlight. The brighter the sun, the more air it moves, you know. And so it may be warm in there like it is outside. If it's 98 degrees outside, it's going to be 98 degrees in there, but it won't be 160. You know, sometimes you get there and feel like you could cook a steak if you put it on a skillet in there, especially if the car's a black one. Let's see. Let's see. Where are we at? 14. On the vehicles equipped with a series of resistors in the blower motor circuit, the high fan setting does what? What would you expect it to do, guys? Don't play dumb with me. Bypasses resistors in a circuit, that's right. Which of the following is true regarding the cabin air filter? Number 15. Filter restrictions can reduce the volume of air entering the passenger compartment. It's mounted in the incoming airstream from the cowl intake. Both A and B are correct. Now, these cabin air filters can be mounted either out here underneath that grill in front of the windshield, which is where it's at on my Taurus and on Abby's Taurus. On Jean's wife's Nissan, and this is weird, her cabin air filter is really big, like this, but the little door, and you go under the dash, past the glove box, right in the middle, it's got a little cover that you take off. You just pull a trigger and you snap it off of there. And that little hole that you got to stick that filter through is only about probably half as big as the filter.
You gotta squish it.
You got to squish the filter and push it in there, and then it boing, it pops out. And you also, when you're pulling it out, you pull a great big filter out of a hole that's not very big, and it confuses people. You know, I mean, because they're trying to figure out, well, this filter looks too big to go through that hole. Anyway, but I'll tell you something else. On some of these Chevy vans and stuff, they'll have two cabin air filters side by side in there behind the glove box. You flop the glove box down, you open this little cover, and you pull one filter out, and then you slide it. You reach in there and you get your pick or something and slide the other filter over and pull it out. Then when you put them back in, you stick a filter in, slide it over, and then you stick your other one in. You snap the cover back on. And if somebody has like a Pontiac Montana or something like that, or one of them Chevy Venture vans, then they're saying, I don't hardly get no air out of my register. It's completely, weak. So if you pull those filters out, you'll find them clogged up with all kinds of, crud and leaves and all kinds of stuff. We had to replace several of them here. All right, let me see. So always play a pin. If it's got a cabin air filter on it and it's got a lot of miles on it, it's not a bad idea to look at that darn thing, because you may need one. Some of them are kind of pricey, but I like to replace mine periodically. Let's see. Well, vehicles equipped with a series of resistors in a blower motor circuit, the high fan setting does what? Bypasses the resistor. We did that already. Never mind. 16 is one we needed to be on. Technician A says all vehicles control the heat of circulated air by changing the amount of coolant flowing through the heater core. Technician B says on some vehicles coolant flows through the heater core at all times when the engine is running. Which technician is correct? What do you think? That's B, actually, on that one, according to the people that wrote the test. Coolant flows through the heater core at all times on some vehicles. All vehicles don't control the heat of circulated air by changing the amount of coolant flowing to the heater core. That's an old thing. That's old technology. Technician A says all modern vehicles control the temperature of circulated air with an electronic control head. No. The one that we worked on yesterday, and the one in my Taurus, by the way, this is an 07 model, it's got vacuum lines going to it. Of course, it does have an electric blend door. Okay, that's technician, which one is that? It's number 17, what do you think? It's B only, isn't it? Yep. Technician A says all modern vehicles, 18, ram air is the result of A, driving a Dodge truck, or B, no, actually, the forward motion of the vehicle, B, the air intake system, C, the manifold vacuum, or D, the force of the air caused by the blower fan. A, the forward motion of the vehicle. Ram air is what you're getting when you're going down the road, because you're pushing air when you're going down the road, right? You got that? All right. Now then. Okay, identify this ATC component. Identify this ATC component.
Ambient sensor.
Your face is an ambient sensor.
All right. That is A. That is a sun load sensor. You notice that is an electric eye. Okay, number 20. Identify this component.
Vacuum pump? No.
Number 20. That's a vacuum motor, guys. That's kind of what I had in my hand a while ago. Got me? See, it's got a diaphragm and a spring and all that? All right. Okay, now number 21. As you know, some of these, in some of these ASE tests, Skills USA competitions, they'll have component identification tables where you got to walk in there and identify the components. And when I do emissions, what I do is I put about 40 components on that table over there, and I set you down in there, and you got to tell me what all those are. Just looking at them. That sounds spooky, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it will be spooky. You shall surely die if you're not careful. All right, you see this right here? Identify that component. What is that component there?
Blower resistor pack.
Blower resistor pack. Yeah, that looks kind of That's an old style though. You know, the newer ones now, a lot of them you can't even see any resistors in there. And those things can burn out. Let me ask you this: the way that a blower motor is typically wired, is it hardwired to power or hardwired to ground usually?
Ground power.
A lot of the time they got the darn thing hardwired to power, and the ground is fed through the resistor pack. If you look at your wiring schematic, you'll be able to tell. Now this is what you do. They'll have a relay that closes, that drives the, that fires up the blower, and then the ground is fed to it through the other. And GM used to even feed their wiper motor with a ground. They'd have that thing hardwired to power, and they'd feed ground to it through the switch. Let's see, 22. Most heating and AC systems are designed so that if the controls fail, the system will operate where?
B.
Actually, that's supposed to be B, full heat and defrost. It'll go to the defrost. Why does it go to the defrost?
Because when you're driving down the road, if it ever gets cold, you need a defrost strip.
Well, if it went out and just fogged the windshield,
You want to be able to see, basically. Well, have you ever been seeing this thing where you, back before they used to run the air conditioner compressor, of course, I didn't have a car with air conditioning on it until, well, I take it back. My 69 LCD had air conditioning on it. I was almost told you all a lie. But anyway, for years after I sold that 69 LCD, I drove several cars that didn't have air on them. And then I asked this girl out, and she wanted me to take her home early because it was hot and she was uncomfortable riding around in my car. And after that, I bought my pickup, which had air conditioning on it. But anyway, the long and short of it was, if you're ever driving a car without air, or without air it don't work, and your windshield starts to fog up a little bit, and you fire up you flip it over on heat. Sometimes whenever you flip it over on heat, it just fogs the whole windshield up where you can't see nothing. Like if you put it on defrost, and it just really, if the heater core is seeping a little bit, it may steam it up good. And have you ever had your windshield completely steamed up and couldn't see nothing while you were driving at highway speed? That's not good, is it?
Yeah, that truck doesn't have anything.
Yep. The vacuum supply for a vacuum control circuit includes a reservoir and check valve, so why?
B.
It's going to be B, actually. Controls will stay at the set position while accelerating or driving up long grades because you lose the vacuum. I drove a 55 Chevrolet pickup when I was a young boy, and it had vacuum windshield wipers on it. Hello? Hey, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We did a good job on that. Okay, what else? Yeah. Absolutely. Just let me know what day you're coming and I'll see to it gets done. I do. If they'll bring it with them, we can just pop it in there and it won't take all that long to do it. Thank you, sir. All right. Yes, sir. Well, that's a nice little thing. Jim Crudop said his air conditioner is working real good. Who worked on Jim Crudop's air conditioner?
What car was that?
Crown Vicky. That dark color Crown Vic. You did that, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was happy with that. He said, you're doing real good. Give that man a cigar. He said, give me his bank account and I'll put a bunch of money in there. No, not really. He's just happy because his air conditioner works. I'm telling you guys, if you fix somebody's air conditioner, they think you're their hero. If they expect it to be fixed and it ain't fixed, you're a sorry dog. Well, anyway. When an AC system is set to recirculate, the inlet air for the evaporator comes from what? Huh? Yeah, it comes from inside the vehicle. Yeah, it actually draws it in there. And you may have a little picture, a little ISO image. Have you ever noticed they put pictures all over the dash everywhere now instead of words so that people from all over the world, even if, I guess they use that symbol overseas too, you can just look at it and figure out that if you put it with the arrow pointing at your face, that's coming out in the register. And used to, they had words on there. They don't put words on there anymore. Let's see. Refer to the diagram below. As drawn, the system is in what mode? What mode is it in? How do you know it's in full cold?
Because the blend door is not.
The blend door is blocking the heater core entirely. So you got air blowing right through the evaporator, right on out, and there's no heat being delivered, or you're not being picked up by that air, right? Okay, so that's good, that's full cold there. That's 25. Okay, that's B. And then 26, what would be the result of a burned open R1 resistor in this diagram? Okay, a burned open R1 resistor in that diagram would do what? What would that cause?
See?
We got some guessers around here. Look at it, Trace. Look at it in your mind. Okay, what you got
It
there?
looks like it cuts off the MC.
Huh?
It does cut off the MC.
All right,
Floor
let's see.
only operates on high.
Yeah, so you're going to have B, blower only operates on high. He's right. See, because if it's the closest one to that blower motor, there's no power can get through any of the other ones to it, right? The high-speed relay will run the blower motor, but it won't do anything beyond that. And you'll see that sometimes, guys. They've also got this thing that's built onto these blower resistors called a thermal limiter. And if something causes the fan to stop moving air, that thermal fuse, rather not a thermal limiter, a thermal fuse is designed to open the circuit going to the fan, so so there's not any current there, and it won't heat everything up, starting to melt things and set stuff on fire. And I used to take those. Sometimes those thermal fuses would just burn out, and so I'd go to Radio Shack and buy one for $1.50 because they had them on the card there. And then I would use little heat sinks, on it and bend it and put it in there, and I'd fix people's cars that way. I'd done that before because it's kind of fun to fix something, Instead of just replacing a part, don't you like to fix something sometime? If it's safe and if it's going to last, it's not a bad idea to just fix something in it. All right, now we're not going to, let's see. We got another few minutes. Let's whip through this manifold tuning pop test right here. Let's go ahead and do that right quick. Can we do that? Because we got about 10 or 12 minutes before we need to go. And I'm going to go there.